So I'm Leen van Kaam. I'm working at Saxion University of Applied Sciences. I am a system administrator there of Surpass, and I'm an advisor in e-learning and e-testing. I want to tell you something about our way to create tests. I saw this session is until 3:45. So I could easily talk an hour about it. Be aware, you might pose questions, you might do it during my story, because when you understand, it's a lot better what I have to tell. So, Saxion University of Applied Sciences is a university at the eastern part of the Netherlands. We have a lot of students, and we have about 2,000 lecturers in 12 schools. There are about 5 or 6 schools for economic purposes. There are about 3 schools with technical things, and there are some schools in social work, health, and things like that, people. So we work in 3 locations. We started with digital assessments, with digital testing in 2007 in another application than Surpass. And we had, after a start, we had a nice growth, but in 2012 we were at limits of our possibilities in the other applications, so we needed to choose another one, and it became Surpass in 2013. And then we started to implement Surpass as it is in 2013. It was about a year. What do I mean with as is? It means that what we did in the old application, we did that also in a new one, and we did nothing new. So it was all about multiple choice questions, multiple answer questions, and easy question types, and just migrating. After 2014, we were growing. That means that we got more schools in Surpass, and we are using more complicated question types and doing other things with tests. So we are growing a lot. Come on, yeah. You see, we had some volume before 2013, but after 2013 the volume escalated a lot until 53,000 digital test takings. That means a test taking, that's one student doing one test at one moment. So it's not going very bad. There are new schools working with Surpass, and we have a lot of schools with a lot of experience. About 6 have a lot of experience. They are using it now about 9-10 years, and there are some schools only starting. So we have a lot of different stages of testing in our organization. And when I go to talk about the creation of tests, our start point is always a test matrix. And what do I mean with a test matrix? Now the difficult part is coming. This is a test matrix. It's just an Excel sheet with, in the Excel sheet, how the test is made. To make it difficult for you, I picked a German test matrix. So I can tell you everything about it, what I like. Okay, yeah. Okay, there are two subjects in this test. One subject is communication, and one subject is orientation on social pedagogy. And there are all learning objectives. What is communication? That's the first one. The second one, what is the communication process? How does it go? Etc., etc. They are all learning outcomes. And they are a bit shortened in because of course, there has to be something like the student has to know or the student has to be able to and things like that. There you see that there are 4 questions in the test of the 8 in the bank. And this is a starting point because when you have only 8 questions, you could only generate 2 different forms, so you only have 2 sets of the same exam. There could be more. And all the questions here have the same level. It's all knowledge. We also have test matrices where where there are different levels, where there is knowledge, where there are questions with analysis or execution or whatever, and those matrices become a lot more difficult, a lot more complex. But this is the starting point. And our lecturers need to make such a matrix with more persons. There you see the shortened names of the authors of the lectures. And in one test, there are more lectures. So this is the starting point, how we work. Every school has this kind of Excel sheets somewhere, somehow. And we have to migrate those things into digital test forms. How do we do that? Yes. Sorry, it's the wrong one. Here I am in Surpass, and our lectures, our most important goal is to build a good, consistent database with questions. And here you see a small part of that database of questions. There are about 55,000 questions in our database, I think, at the moment. Not a million, but we're not that big. Okay, here you see the database with questions, and I'm not going to tell you about our structure of the database, but it's very structured, it's very good, well built. But I don't get the time for it. Okay. When you are in a subject, you see a bit about the structure of the database, but here you see what is communication. And no wonder you see 8 questions about what is communication that could replace each other in our test. And of course, what is the communication process? How does it go? And there are 9 questions, no more, who could replace each other. So the database is very well structured accordingly to the test matrix. And when a lecturer should make a test, you could say that there are 2 different stages to make a test, because there are beginners, and beginners want to do it all by themselves, because a lecturer is the owner of the process, he thinks. And so when you want to inspire them to go to work with digital testing, you have to give them autonomy. You have to let them do their thing, to convince them first. So when you have such a test matrix in one subject, you have all the questions of one test in one subject, you could use the test wizard to generate tests. It's very easy then. Every lecturer is able to click in our situation. So they could make their summative tests, and the test wizard is warning them for problems. Here it's warning them that there's no introduction or finish page. Okay, let's continue. And then, come on. Yeah. It says, what do you want? I want to get started. And here you see the structure. And I know in my test matrix, I should have, no, sorry. 4 questions, one too much. 4 questions about what is communication. And I could do it this way as a lecturer. And I could do it also the other way. I want to have 5 items about the communication process. So this is what lecturers can do. And at first, when implementing, for starting schools, we do this. And they get convinced because they know how it works and it's easy to do. But only the eye of the lecturer guarantees that the structure of the test matrix is built here. It's not automatically done. They have to do it by hand. And that's a risk, of course. So that's not what you want. And also, those lecturers do this, and they do it twice a year. So this year, they've learned it, and they are the owner of the process, nice. So everything goes well. But after a year, and they have to do it again, and they say, how do I do this? I don't know anymore. It's a lot of work. I don't have the time. Is there not someone who can help me with this? So they know it's an administrative job, and they don't like to do that. It was enough for them to make the spreadsheet. And someone else could make this. So there you are. There we have them where we want to have them. Okay. So we are going to the next step, because most of our tests aren't created this way. We do it quite a different way. I don't save this, because it's nothing. We create, in fact, those 6 advanced schools, they create tests in test creation. And it's not the lecturer who's doing this. There are specialized people who are doing this. And they're doing this all the time, the whole year. So they know what they're doing, and they're doing it all right. We make one test form, and that test form, this is selected. There is written test matrix in Dutch. And I open this test matrix. Yes, there it is. And I think you're not surprised to see that there is written in a rule, the first rule, from the topic WICO, that is, what is communication? There are 4 questions in this test matrix. And from AAB Copper, or the subject, what is the communication process, how does it go? There are 5 questions in this test, etc. You see the 2 subjects where it's all about. So here the test matrix is made once by an expert. And if it's made, and if it's reviewed, and everyone says it's okay, then we are using this to generate tests. There's not a single student who is getting a test directly from this form. We generate tests with fixed questions in it with this form. And we do it this way. We use a 3rd tab. And there we say, I need, for instance, 2 sits, 2 forms. Generate me 2 forms. So there are 2 forms generated with rules. Which one should I choose? No, this one, for instance. And you're not surprised what is communication, 4 questions at random chosen, the communication process at random, 5 questions, etc. And I can see that this test has a p-value, average p-value of 0.7, and I can see every question. If I choose a question, I can preview the item. I don't do it now. But at the end, when I say this test is what I like for the first sit, then I can save it as a new test. And I pick another one, for instance, this one, and that might be the second sit. And I suppose you've seen that those questions are, again, what is communication and what is the communication process, but other questions because they are at randomly chosen. So that's how we generate our tests. What do you see here? You see our test matrix, still this one. But that are all different forms taken by students with the same test matrix. So we have all those forms standing there, and they are scheduled for a sit in a certain year, because you see 2013-14 sit 1, 2013-14 sit 2, and things like that. So we have a completely transparent view there. But there's no lecturer in here. The lecturer only gets the test to review whether that test for that sit is suitable or not. That's how we generate tests. Go back to the presentation. So we use a test matrix, and for beginners we use a test wizard, but we don't like it because we have no guarantee that the test matrix really is used. And our tests change after 1, 2, or 3 years. I don't know whether you work at a university or in another institution with tests, but at my university, after 2 or 3 years, every test is changed. The education program is changed, so the test is also changed. When you want to have a good structure of your database, you need a structure that stays there all the time for all kind of tests. So we don't like the idea that one test is one subject in Surpass. We would like to have every subject is a part of a test, maybe, or maybe one test, but it can be used and reused also with new test situations. So our database structure for questions is not the test structure. It is, in fact, the structure where the lectures are mastering. So we have communication specialists, a subject communication. We have social pedagogists, they're a subject for. We have physicians teaching English, teaching Dutch, teaching German. All those things are different subjects because somewhere a lecturer is master in. So we use now, most of the time, a test matrix, and we use different test forms based upon that test matrix. Now we have the guarantee that every test is identical to the test matrix, so it's completely transparent when we have a quality check or something like that.